we might actually be able to finish Access Project 2, but it's all about queries. And just to review here, I thought, what queries do you do when you're out there on the internet? Well, here's an example of a query. I go to DuckDuckGo and I search for Bibles. Where do you think it's searching for? What do you think the design of that query might be? Search for Bibles. And I get, does it say how many hits I get? Ooh, Google tells me how many hits I get. DuckDuckGo doesn't tell me how many hits. Well, let's go to google.com and search for Bibles. And within almost 1 second, I get 3,620,000,000 results. Like I'm really going to care about more than like the third page of results. I'll bet you they only really go get the first page or two. And then as you decide what page to go to, it fetches the rest of those. Because it wouldn't make sense for them to go get all the information and then have it available to you when you only care about the first 20. So they probably do see how many there are with that keyword in it, and then show you the first page full. But how would that look like in an Access design? Well, just for fun, I built an extra table in there called Big Database Table. I don't have any information in it yet, but I do have a key, a primary key record, a title, author, description, keywords. So suppose I were Google, working for Google, and they had something like an Access database, and I did a search for Bibles. The design of that query would probably look something like, if I go to Create, Query Design, the table I would be looking through would be my big database table. And let's see here. I don't care about record ID, but title is going to probably have something like star, Bible, star. Bible is going to be somewhere in the title. And instead of the same line in the author, well, let's see, author, maybe Bible somewhere in the author's name, so I'll look for star, Bible, star there. Well, maybe it's in the description, so add another line, or star, Bible, star in the description, or in the keywords, star, Bible, star, Bible, star. And so this is probably the kind of query you're running when you go to Google and you say search for something, because it's probably looking for the keywords you're looking for in the title of the link, the text of the link, keywords of the link. So they may even have content as another column in their table. Now, I don't know how Google designs their database. They're probably way fancier than that. But that's the kind of query you're running anytime you do a search. Somebody has a database, probably not an Access database, because this is huge. They probably wrote their own software. But that's essentially what you're doing all the time when you're searching for things, looking up things, everything that you go to that provides information, even when you log in. That's a database keeping track of all the people that log in. So the Facebook database, the YouTube database, anything you log into, the Google mail.google.com database, there's databases everywhere. So it's good to know how they work and good to know at least one example of a database program. So I'm going to close this query because I don't care about saving it, and no, don't need to save changes. And I can close that table. It has nothing in it. It was just there for fun. So let's continue with the queries that we're building. Let's see, I can tell because I've named them how far I've gotten. I've got to M02Q04. We did have a state parameter query, but let's go then building some more queries based on this information from these various tables. Eventually, we're going to show how we can tell Access how the tables are related. So let's jump down to Module 2. Let's see, getting a little past. Let's see, I can do a search for M02Q04. M02Q04. Okay. Now they're going to get a little fancier in their queries. Just to give us some practice here, we're going to call this a compound query. We're going to create a compound query involving an OR. So, we're going to go back to Design View, and we might as well start a new query just to practice creating one from scratch. So I'm going to do Create, Query Design, and the query is based on the Appointments table. So we're going to call this, we're creating a query on the Appointments table. So I double-click Appointments, close. The fields that I'm querying about are Appointment Date, double-click, Appointment Time, Treatment Number, Veterinarian, and Owner. Now, without any criteria, remember a query will just return everything in the table because there's no criteria. It's basically just show me everything with those 5 fields. Now we add criteria. We're looking for appointment date greater than 6/30/2021. So here, remember how we make a date after 6/30/2021 greater than 6/30/2021. Hit Enter or hit Tab, it automatically puts pound signs around that. And we want to put B01 as the entry under veterinarian, but it's not going to be on the same line. It's going to be on the different line, meaning it can be either this or veterinarian B01. So now we're saying, show me the appointment information about appointments after June 30th, 2021, or if the veterinarian is B01. And it puts quotes around it there for us. I run Datasheet View, and there, see, some appointments are after June 30th. Others that aren't, they have B01 as their veterinarian. So you can kind of think of this as combining 2 criteria. Both appointments after June 30th, as well as the appointments for veterinarian B01 will be shown in the query results. So the OR will show the results combined for either of those criteria. So OR is combining. If I put them on the same line, then all the things have to be true if they're on the same line. That's what we call that ANDing criteria, if they're on the same line as any other criteria. But I can OR a lot more things together by just adding more and more lines below here. That adds more and more criteria. So that's our compound criteria. And this is going to be M02Q06. So I'm going to save this, Control S, M02Q06. Sometimes we're modifying the query we have, sometimes we're making new queries. Now they want to show us how we can sort the information. But we're still going to create a query on the appointments table. So I could start a new one, or I could delete the design grid by dragging through on the little gray bar up above. I can drag through those gray bars so they're all selected, and I hit the delete key. It deletes my fields. Meaning there's nothing yet to show. I need to add something here to make the query meaningful. So I don't have to start a new one. I can modify the existing one. I could clear the design grid. And, oh, I guess they're not having us do a new one. They're now going to have us bring in a few more extra tables. We already have brought some in from the start. We're going to import more information. So they want us to go get vets extra tables from part 2. So let's go get, we need to go download and extract. I think I have already downloaded the Access Part 2s, but I haven't extracted the part, the module 2. So I'm going to go over to where I downloaded and extracted all the Access modules, and I want to extract all of the module 2 data. So wherever you downloaded and extracted, I have them over here in my 2022 spring folder. I extracted that. There's my Access modules 1 to 3 zip files. Module 2 is not yet unzipped because I can see there's not a plain folder with module 2. So I right click, extract all. Answer yes, I'm going to put it in the default location. And it puts me down into the folder. I can always go back and see that, yeah, I have a module 2 data folder now extracted. No little zipper on that. And I see down in there, module data, there is the extra tables I want to import. So now I'm ready to import them. Extracted them. I can see that they're there. I don't have to browse into there. I just browsed into there just to make sure that they were there. I can close my extra folders, and now I can come here to external data, and we're going to do new data source from database, from an Access database. And now we're going to, when I click here, we're going to browse over to where I had extracted those files. Browse now. Over to my special folder, over here, users, AT Manning, documents, cs101, spring 2022. There's the Access modules 1 to 3. I'm going to view this in details view. There's Access modules 1 to 3 data. Double click, take me down. Module 2 data now has been extracted. See how Access doesn't see the zip files because it doesn't know how to go down and do anything with zip files. Shows me the folders, module 2 data, CMF vets extra tables. We want to import any tables that are in there, bring them into our database. So I double click on that, and now I have the choice. So I'm going to take import all the tables from into the current database. I click OK. There's no any. Oh, now there is. Let's see here. Import objects database. We want to import the veterinary vendors table. And let's see if there's anything else in there. If there's no forms or reports, that is the only thing in that database. And that's the one that I want to select. It's selected, so I click OK. Or I could select all since it's the only one. And now I don't need to save my import steps. Now I have veterinary vendors now imported into my database. So I can close M02Q06. I'm not going to save the changes where I cleared the design grid. So I'm going to close it and say no, don't save the changes because I don't need a blank query. So I'm clicking no, don't save the changes. Now I'm going to create a new query. We got information about new information about vendors, but we're going to create a query on the treatment cost table. And then we'll deal with that extra table we imported in a minute. So now to create a query on the treatment cost, create, query design, show table, treatment cost, close. And the fields that we want in our query are treatment and cost. Treatment and cost. Remember, without any criteria, I'm just going to see all the information about all my treatments and costs for each treatment without needing to see the number or the animal type. But we want to sort by lowest to highest cost. So sometimes you want specific information, sometimes you want your information sorted. And to do that, I just click on Sort, double click, and I can toggle through the possible values for sorting, ascending, descending, or not sorted. If it's blank, that's the same as not sorted. So if we set it to be ascending, Now when I run the data, or I want to view datasheet view, now I see it's sorted nicely by lowest to highest cost. So that's a very, just two column query, but we're going to save this as, Control S save, I'm going to save this as M02Q07. And I'm going to add to that sorted by cost. How about treatment sorted by cost? Now, when you go do a Google search, it doesn't give you the chance to sort it. It just gives you the results. Just imagine if you could say, give me all the Bibles and list them alphabetically. I believe their sorting lists them by most relevant to your search with some fancy algorithm that determines how this data gets sorted. But back to Access, we can now build our own queries, tell it, sort ascending. So that's how you get the data to be sorted. So if we go back to let's see, we're making a new query. Okay, so we're going to come back to this query now. We're going to delete the treatment. We only want to see the costs. What are the costs of the treatment? So I can select on that column and delete it. Now be very careful. We're going to later on, we're going to save this as a new query in a minute. So don't do a Control S. It'll overwrite M02Q07. So we have cost. Now if we view this, we have lots of costs, lots of 25s, lots of 35s, 40s. So we don't need to see how many are costing $10. We just want to see what are the costs of our different treatments. So I can query just the cost, just ascending, and now we can do something even more special. We can go to the properties of our query, which is right up here, property sheet of our query. And I can tell my property sheet if I select, let's see, I got to be selected in the right thing here. If I select in the gray, then I get the properties of this query itself. What I want to turn on is unique values. I'm going to say unique values, show me just the things that are different from all the others. This is the property of the query. Now watch what happens. When I turn on unique values, by just toggling it to yes by double clicking, now it only shows me one time each of what different costs are there in the list. So click in the desktop area. When I have the property sheet open, I can turn off and on unique values. Turning it off, every cost, even if it's a duplicate of another cost. Turn on unique values, and now I have each unique treatment cost. Just another way that we can manipulate queries. And they did give us a name, so let's save this as same name but Q07B. Let's call it Q07B because we don't want to wipe out what we did in Q07. So let's do File, Save As, Save Object As, Save As, and now change that to be B, and we'll just put Treatment Costs Sorted. Actually, treatment costs unique and sorted, right? We left the sort ascending still in there, but we also turned on the property unique values. So we're starting to get down a little deeper into the geekiness of databases. But if you know properties, there's a lot of stuff there that's pretty mysterious. Look at all the properties available on the query. And if you ever want to get really nerdy, click the SQL view of that, and you'll see how they make that unique. Select distinct. But you don't have to worry about that unless you're interested in the actual language that you're basically using this design sheet to sort of formulate a program just by graphically naming what we're looking for. So now we've saved that as Q07B. I can close the property sheet. If I want to look at it or anything, I can turn it back on. Or you can toggle it on and off by clicking there as well. Okay, so we're done with this one. Now we're on to another query. And this has to do with sorting and the left to right priority of the sort. So we're going to build a query based on the treatment cost table. So create, query design, treatment cost table, close, and we're looking at treatment number, actually all the fields one at a time, treatment number, treatment, animal type, cost. I see all the fields, but we want to sort first based on animal type, then based on cost. And the priority goes left to right. So if your major sorting is first by animal type, then by cost, we list them left to right. If you wanted it sorted by cost and then by animal type, you switch the order around. Left to right priority is how it works with Access Design View. Let's see how this works now. No, there's no criteria, so I'm going to show all the records, but there will be sorted. See how they're sorted first by canine, comes before feline, alphabetically sorting. And within canine, they're sorted increasing, and then sorted increasing within the feline group. So primarily sorted by canine first because that came first. And if I did it the other way, I click that and then moved it on this side, I'd get $10 mixed animal type, and then for each unique price, sorted by canine to feline. But if I'd rather sort the other way, by type and then cost, then I get it by that animal type first. So left to right is the priority in the sorting. That was just a little practice at that. And we're saving this one as, since we started a new one, save this one as M02Q08. Sorted, we call that sorted on multiple fields. Multiple columns were involved in what determined the sorting just by turning on ascending for more than one column. And remembering left to right is the priority of sorting. Now suppose, they're going to do another query, and then we do another details that we can handle with queries. We're going to look for veterinaries, first 5 records of the veterinary table. So let's go back to let's start a treatment cost query again. Create, query design based on the treatment cost. And same 4 fields, treatment number, treatment, animal type, cost. And we're going to sort ascending on animal type and cost. And this time, though, we're going to change this guy up here to return just the first 5 values. Sometimes you don't want to get the entire list if it's a large table. Now I will only see the first 5 based on this sorting. So that gives me the first 5 records. So I can type the return there to only return that first 5 records. And we're saving this one, Control S, saving this one as M02Q09. Only difference, M02. Only difference being we got the top 5. So I'll add top 5. We sorted, give me the first 5, and click. And that's what Google is doing when it shows you that page. You're getting the first page of data, and then as you page through, it goes and gets the next listing from its huge database. Now comes a major new concept with databases, trying not to be too confusing. But when we get data from 2 different tables, that's called joining tables. So we have an appointments table and we have a treatment cost table. Let's see, appointments table, there's our appointments table. And it has appointment times, it has a patient ID, and it has a treatment number. So the treatment number is how I relate it to anything in the treatment cost table. In the treatment cost table, I have all my T-something for treatment numbers. So appointments, I can look and see, oh, T3, that's going to be wellness exam. But we're going to be able to write a query that gets information from both tables in this way. Let's see how this works. So I'm going to start a new query. Create query design. And instead of just one table, I'm going to have the appointments table, double click. And I'm going to double click the treatment cost table. 2 tables, and a line should appear between the 2 tables because the exact same name acts as says, oh, you must mean treatment number here is related to treatment number in this table. This is what we call a join. I'm getting information from 2 tables. Those 2 tables joined information. And what information do I want? Well, let's find out. I want to get the appointment date, that's in the appointments table, the treatment, that is in the treatment cost table, the animal type is in the treatment table, and the cost is in the treatment table. So in the relational database, appointment date is referring to a treatment number. So I don't care about listing who the patient or the veterinarian is. I just want to know what treatments are being done on specific dates. And we're going to sort it ascending, so it'll be oldest to newest. And we're going to sort it ascending on cost, so lowest to highest cost after we have a particular date. So now I see I'm going to get 4 columns of information. There are no criteria, so I'm going to see all the appointments listed that actually do have a reference treatment number, because unless there's a link here, there is no treatment information. So here's what I get from the data. Sorted ascending by date. And then, do any of them have the same? None of them have the same date. So actually these 2 have the same date. So within these 2 dates, you can see they are sorted by increase in cost. And I think I put it in the wrong order. Let me check that I did this right. Yeah, treatment cost, treatment. Yeah, they're sorted by treatment on the same day. So even though the cost is sorted, what the primary sorting was alphabetically on the treatment name, not the treatment cost. I missed it. See how we're sorting it on treatment, the treatment name, not the cost of the treatment. Otherwise, the ascending would have been here. It just happens to be that if I sort them alphabetically by treatment, the costs also happen to increase on those two. And since the others are all on different dates, the sorting by treatment made no difference for those. So what we call this is a joined query on both the appointments and the treatment cost with these four fields sorted by appointment date, then by the treatment name in the treatment cost table. And we're going to save that one as appointments and treatments. For some reason, they deviate a few times from the standard naming. We're going to call this appointments and treatments. And I'm going to put in, let's see if it lets me put parentheses. I'm going to put joined. Join tables. See if it takes parentheses. Sometimes you don't find out until you try. Yep, it looks like it's happened with parentheses in the name of my query. So that shows up here, appointments and treatments, two tables of information. And most queries are going to, and any decent database is going to have queries based on multiple tables. Unless you're looking for users and their phone numbers, which may be in the same one table, usually the information is spread across multiple tables, like users and their institution or their employer. And employers would be in a separate table. Okay, so appointments and treatments, join. I'm going to skip the join properties part. That is just confusing. We don't need to do any of that. We're going to create now a report based on a query. I could make a report based on a table, but I can also make a report based on a query. So they would like to create a report on the appointments and treatments. There's a 3-click method to create a report. 1, click on the table you want to make a report on. In this case, appointments and treatments. 2, click create. And 3, click report. And I get a report very quickly. So 3-click is the primary way you're going to create reports. And I can close that and I don't need to save it, because now I'm going to do it in a slightly more detailed way that just gives me a little bit of flexibility or more choices. Click on the table I want to create a query or a report on, create, and this time we're going to try the report wizard, just to have the report wizard walk us through some of the options. Hitting report is like taking all the default choices on report wizard. But let's use the report wizard and give us a chance to choose what we're getting a report on. I do want a report containing all the fields, so I have the choice of not including every column in my report. But in this case, I'm going to select them all by clicking the double arrow. So all the fields are going to be going into the table, or into my report. I have the choice of where the query comes from, where the data comes from, but because I had that selected, that becomes the one that it says, oh, you must mean the one you had chosen when you started the wizard. And that is true. Now I click Next, and I can decide what kind of grouping I want. I want to group them by treatment, type, or cost. And we're going to say, no, we don't need to do any grouping, so we're going to click Next. Now I get a chance, if I want to choose any sorting. Well, remember, my query already has sorting in it, so I don't need to sort it on a different field. But I could change the sorting if I wanted to. Next. And now I can choose what kind of report, and the default is tabular. So I click Next, and change this to Appointments and Treatments Report for my report it can have the same name as a table since it's a different kind of object. And I can finish. And if I ever go to design view, I'll see the same thing as in the when I first did the just click the report. Since I didn't change any of the default values, I get the same kind of report. So let's see, that's the design view, that's the layout view. Oops. Print preview like I had. I can view reports in different ways, but it generates a report. When I close it, it has already made the report, and it's down there in the report section. So this is when you want to print out. This is when you pull information out of a database for sending it to someone else. Generating reports. I can generate a report from any query or any table. Remember the 3-click techniques. Choose what I want to report from. Let's just say owner's query with criteria. Create report. And if I want to view that in print preview, that's what it would look like. So I guess the 3-click makes a little uglier looking report, puts solid lines around fields. The wizard, I guess, makes it look a little better. But 3 clicks will give you a report. And I can save changes. I'm not going to save changes to this because I was just testing, showing how 3 clicks can get me a report. So that was queries. We built some queries. We just did a couple reports. And now we're going to practice friendly user entry. Forms are for friendly, easy, less intimidating user entry for someone that wants to update information in a report or a query. So watch how this is done. We're going to select the appointments and treatments query. And again, it's a 3. Let's see, are we using the query? I think we're using the, yeah, we're using the 3-click method to create a form. I choose the query. I can close this for now since I don't need that open. I choose the query that I want to get a form for viewing in a friendly way. Create and form. Don't worry about form design. You're welcome to play with it. But we're just going to let Access create a form for us. And what it's going to do is create a friendly looking way of browsing through the records one at a time. I could have a picture of a collie as part of my data, and it would actually show the picture in my little form. When I'm viewing the form, I can navigate through each record one at a time. So this is like I'm looking at each line of information in that table, one line at a time. And if I'm using this for having someone do data entry, I can control what they could actually change. Right now, by default, I can change anything as I browse through it. But in a form, you could keep them from changing anything but perhaps the costs. If you're going to give someone permission to go in and update costs, we can make it so they cannot change anything but the cost. But we're not going to, you don't even have to worry about that. You can just worry about how we create a friendly view of the data through this little form. We'll call it our little form data navigator. Go forward and backward, and I can even go to the very end for entering new information. So that's the simple way of creating a form. And are we saving it? Yeah, appointments, we're going to save it as appointments and treatments form. So I can come over here and do a Control-S, save. By default, it wants appointments and treatments as the name. I'm going to just add to it as appointments and treatments form. And it will show up now in our little forms section in our navigator. And it's, if you're using a form, if you're creating a form based on a query, it's probably a really good idea to leave the name of the query in your name of your form, so you know where that data is coming from. Remember, you can always create a form just for entering data into our table. For example, if I want to be able to edit and browse owners, I can click on owners, click create, and click a form, and now I can browse through my owners one record at a time and see all the information about that owner. And again, if I had a picture of the owner, this lets me view my information one record at a time. But I could always view it in datasheet view in like a spreadsheet. It's the choice of the one who wants to make this friendly. And since this is so easy to make, I'm not even going to worry about saving that form. But you can create forms with 3 clicks. Choose the thing I want to create a form on, choose create, and then click the form. So I can do that with form, and I can do that with report. Unless there are specific things I want to customize, then I can go to the report wizard or the form wizard. In this class, we only touch on the report wizard. Most of the time, just jump right in, create a report, give me the default settings when I need a report on something. Now, in the book, it shows that we can export this to a database or another database, or to a text file, an Excel spreadsheet. But we're going to jump down it to a few other query criteria. I'm not going to worry about the exporting part. Just know you can export. All right, we're going to modify the appointments and treatments query. Remember, I can right-click on that appointments and treatments query, go to Design View, and what we want to change here, in the costs, we know we are sorting it, and we're showing everything, right? We see everything, appointments and treatments. We're only going to show where there are appointments with a cost greater than 10. Greater than 10. Now, before the criteria is there, I can always view and see, okay, everything's greater than 10. So I'm going to get the same data. So let's see what we get. Greater than 10 in the criterion for the cost, and I get the same results. But if I change that to, wait, did it? They're getting different information. Oh. Yeah, we'll keep it the same. Let's just make it a little more interesting. Since I know that there are some greater than 8, let's do greater than 18. Change that from 10 to 18. Then I see, oh yeah, I only get the appointment treatments costing greater than 18. Now in the book, they did a slight change in their joining, but I'm not going to have you worry about that. Because we want to get to the part where we can calculate something based on the information in the other tables. So let's see, are we saving this one? Oh, they say, oh, they don't care. They don't care if we save that one. So we can put a criteria in there. We'll come back and add more criteria later. So we're not saving the changes to that one because we're going to get ahead with a new kind of query. It's called a calculated field query. So first of all, we're going to start with a query on the veterinary vendors table, the one that we imported. Veterinary vendors, create query design, choose the veterinary vendors table to show, and close. I can see multiple. I'd like to stretch that out as much as I can. We would like to see information about vendor name, the state, the veterinary supply, the quantity, and cost field. See how I skipped over some? It's another advantage of queries. I only see the information That's important to me. No criteria yet. And here's what I get. I get my veterinary, what they're supplying me, how many I have on hand, and what the cost is. Now, a very useful field to us would be total cost coming from that supplier. Well, the total cost would be quantity times cost. It'd be nice to be able to see that. And so that's where the calculated field comes in. And I will write this in larger text because it's harder to read. Let's bring up Notepad. Here's what we're putting in for the calculated field. We're going to type here in the field, we're going to type total cost. Actually, they do capital T. Total cost, colon, and that means anything to the left of the colon. That's going to be the name of that column. What this is going to be then is this calculation. Square brackets come in and refer to another column, quantity. See how there's a quantity column? That means take what you see in the quantity column, asterisk means multiply it by what you see in the cost column. That's what this means. And we're going to put this right there. So total cost equals square bracket quantity times square bracket cost. So now I'll put it here. It's kind of like a fancy Excel formula. So total cost, colon, square bracket quantity, right square bracket, times, asterisk, left square bracket, cost, right square bracket. And nothing goes under here because this is doing a calculation, just like an Excel formula, taking things from other columns and multiplying together. And now I click View, Datasheet View, and look at that. I get my costs. And even better, I can turn on totals and get this to be the sum of all my costs. Toggle totals and choose this to be sum, and it will give you the summation of all the costs. So I have now impressed my boss that they discovered they had a database keeping track of their inventory, and somebody wanted them to know what's the total value of your inventory. With this query, the calculated field here, and turning on totals, and making this be sum, I can calculate the total cost of my inventory in a very short time. Treating Access kind of like a spreadsheet. So let's stop here. We'll save this one as they didn't give us a name yet. How far are we? Where am they give it? Vendor, we'll call it vendor quantity. Save it as vendor quantity, and then we'll stop for today. Save as vendor quantity. And I'm going to add with calculated field. Now we're learning a lot of things about what queries can do. Just kind of learning they sort of can be like Excel spreadsheets type calculations. But just the general idea is getting you familiar with Access so you'll be familiar with how databases work, but don't worry about being a database expert. You are